Hello and welcome to another very exciting episode of Crosstown Crosstalk presented by the Barroom Network. My name is Vinnie Parise and I'm here with a very special co-host, Frankie Mueller. And of course, we have a very special guest today. We have Seattle Mariners announcer, play-by-play man, Dave Sims. Dave, how you doing?
Doing well, fellas. How you guys doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you so much for coming on our show. This is a pleasure.
Sure, no problem. Here we go.
Frank, what's going on? First question for Dave.
Well, one of my favorite calls that you did, Dave, was last season when the Angels were up 4-3 on the Mariners. It was bottom of the eighth, and Mitch Haniger had a 3-2 count. And he gets a base hit in a clutch game, in a key game for the Mariners. And I just want to know, what is your favorite call or moment that you've had since you started broadcasting?
That's certainly one of them. I mean, that one, the Felix Perfecto call back in, good grief, 10 years ago now. Just celebrated the 10th anniversary a few days ago. Those are two. I've got, there's a bunch of basketball calls, a bunch of football calls, but, those in terms of baseball season, in a baseball mindset right now. So those, I'd have to say those two are the top two. I'll just leave it at that. Those are really good. We've had a few good ones. A lot of Nelson Cruz home runs. I think I can plant that flag for those calls.
Absolutely. Dave, how did you get started in broadcasting? When you were a kid, did you know you were going to end up in this part of the spectrum of the career?
Well, I didn't know I was going to be there, but it's where I wanted to be. And, I played ball through high school and the college. And when I got to college, I focused on broadcasting and writing, being in sports media. And I started out as a newspaper guy with my 2 summer internships, 7 years at the Daily News. And, got to New York and got great exposure and got a talk show at, WFAN, the first all sports station. I was at WNBC before that. And, I just worked my way over to play-by-play, and then the Mariner job opened up. I got a couple calls. Hey, man, I'd like you put in for it. And I did, and I got it. And 16 and a half years later, here I am.
Wow, that's awesome. Definitely one of the bright spots this season for the Mariners have been Julio Rodriguez. Obviously, he should win AL Rookie of the Year. 19 home runs, 62 RBIs, 21 stolen bases, and batting .270. I mean, this guy does it all. He's definitely the future of the Mariners. But what do you think the future holds for him with the organization?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but clearly the guy is one of the best rookies you ever want to see. I mean, he's got everything you could possibly want. He's got, just blessed with wonderful physical gifts. He's a very smart kid. His baseball IQ is off the chart. And, if you're going to make mistakes in baseball, but I tell you what, his are minimal. And he's only going to get better. He's very exciting. And the difference in the team is palpable when he's not there. And when he comes back, you can just feel it. There's a certain temperature. There's a vibe that he brings to the ball club, the energy that he brings to the ball club. Now, it's good stuff. And it's, and knock wood that he stays healthy. I think he's smart enough to stay out of trouble. I think he's got good enough people around him that he will. And he's just going to be a good citizen, and he's going to be a great ball player. He has a chance to be one of the all-timers.
So he's been gaining a lot of the attention from the Mariners roster so far this season in terms of offensive players. But has there been anybody else that stands out besides him that you're like, wow, this Mariners team's offense, they really wouldn't be where they are without this person?
Well, it's a team effort. I mean, Julio's got superstar written all over, but I tell you what, the other components are really good. I mean, Ty Francis is a little bit of a slump right now, but that he hits all the time. You got Cal Raleigh, who's developing big time, 2 home run day on the finale against the Angels. And the second home run was really mashed. That was impressive. And then he hit that left-handed. I mean, Mitch Haniger's a star player. J.P. Crawford's a star. I mean, you guys know the team. I mean, it's J.P. Crawford's a star shortstop. I mean, he's got a Gold Glove. Hopefully he's going to win some more. And the key right now is pitching. I mean, Luis Castillo, Robbie Ray at the top. George Kirby acquitted himself nicely yesterday. Logan Gilbert's had a little bit of a rock. I would not call him rocky, but he hadn't been as dominant as he has been. But he's had a good year. And Marco fits in. We throw him in there, and he gets his stuff gets his stuff done, and the bullpen's been fabulous. I mean, yeah, you guys would follow it. You see it. It's pitching, and defense, and just enough hitting.
Yeah, you mentioned pitching. You got Luis Castillo, great acquisition for the Mariners. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Kirby. But what pitching player would you say has to step up the most to get to October this year?
Here we are. We're sitting a game and a half up in the number one wild card spot. I think what they're doing, just stay the course. I'm not putting an onus on one guy. These guys are professionals. They want to win. They want to do what it takes to win. And the contributions from this group have been outstanding. And, you hope that they just continue. I'm not isolating one guy to say he's got to do this, that, and the other. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Scott Servais has had an outstanding year as the manager of this team. They kind of started off a little slow, then they picked it up, right around May-ish, and they really started to get on a run. Do you think he'll be in the running for manager of the year? Because I think you have to consider him for the case.
You'd have to be deaf, dumb, and blind not to put him in, as a possibility. He should have won it last year. And he won 90 games with the team that had little or no expectations. The expectation was a little bit higher this year, and they're overachieving. And, he's got a chance to do a groundbreaking thing, get the Mariners back in the playoffs, first time in 21 years. That carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, being a Mariners fan and following the Mariners, the Astros just absolutely annoy me. I'm not a fan of them, but it seems that every time the Mariners play the Astros, their feet get stuck in the ground. They're a hard team to beat. I know they're very talented with the core roster that they have, but besides from them or including them, who do you think the biggest challenge that the Mariners face come this October? Because I know I'm not afraid of the Yankees at all.
Yeah, say that at your own peril. I wouldn't get a little overconfident here, pal. They won 4 out of 6 in August. October baseball's a different thing. I would pump the brakes on that. You do yourself a favor by not antagonizing teams by putting bulletin board stuff up there. But obviously, Houston and the Yankees, the top 2 teams. The Yankees are in a slump right now. They'll come out of it. They got a grand slam from Donaldson to win a game on Wednesday night. And hey, it's obvious as the nose in the face. Houston's talented from top to bottom. The Yankees have a couple of guys hurt. Got a couple of guys in the bullpen are still trying to figure it out. Let's just get to the playoffs before we start worrying about that stuff. We got 21 years. You can't be talking big and sticking your chest out and acting all tough, and you haven't done anything. You can't be talking about, well, we're going to play this guy. We're afraid. Get to the playoffs and see what happens. Because, hey, let me tell you something. Get 2 series with Cleveland. Cleveland's going to be a bear. You got the White Sox, who are getting healthy, although they probably won't have Tim Anderson by the time we see him. They're on a little bit of a roll right now. So, it's August 18th. Take it easy. We got, data.
Absolutely.
When you're one thing about baseball, and you learn, and I learned this a while ago, it really is day to day. Don't try not to project too far out.
Absolutely. And you brought up it's been 21 years. That's obviously the longest in Major League Baseball. People start to gravitate towards a team like that. People outside the market. I know people in Chicago, outside of rooting for their own team in their own market, they start to root for teams, the underdog teams, if you will, the teams that haven't been there in a while. There's this joke on Twitter that the Mariners are America's team. Have you heard of any of that? And do you buy into any of it?
Oh, it's no question. Every stop we go, I have my announcing colleagues, people I know around the country, people I see on social media. A lot of hey, you guys make the playoffs. American sports fans love the underdog. It's no brainer. And if you watch, the crowds we had the last homestand, the Yankees and the Angels were in. Big crowds, enthusiasm off the chart. It's easy to root for a situation like this where or an organization has focused itself and worked its butt off, made a lot of moves. A lot of them have been correct moves, and it's panning out. It's coming to fruition. So it's easy to root for a team like
that. T-Mobile Park gets loud. The Mariners have some of the best fans in the world. I love the atmosphere. What I see from TV. Hopefully one day I can make it to T-Mobile Park. But is there any other stadium that you love broadcasting in because you get the energy from fans or traveling Mariners fans?
Well, the Mariner fan, there's always a few pockets of Mariner fans. Pretty much every ballpark we go. It's not like like Pittsburgh Steelers fans or Eagles fans or Cowboys fans. It's not that volume. It's not near that voluminous. But our T-Mobile Park broadcast area where we work is probably the best in baseball. In terms of energy, juice, come on, obvious, Yankee Stadium, Fenway, Wrigley, even when the Cubs aren't good. Dodger Stadium. I mean, those are the obvious ones. Pittsburgh has a great ballpark. It's a shame the club they don't spend a heck of a lot of money. They have an absolutely stupendous ballpark. In terms of fitting the eye, it's just fantastic. But the juice places, Philly's a great sports town. That's where I was born and raised. Obviously in New York. And there's a thing that I like about back in New York. There's always a constant din in Yankee Stadium, and not all necessarily prompted by the video board and the organist and all that. I mean, it's just there's always excitement. There's always a buzz in New York.
Absolutely. And, from your point of view, Seattle, it's a great sports town. It's becoming an even better sports town from an outsider's perspective. You got the Kraken coming into town in the NHL. Obviously, the Seahawks have won a Super Bowl, been in another kind of going through a transition right now. But from your seat, what is the fan level of Seattle sports meant to you? And what does it feel like the vibe is right now in terms of the entire sports culture?
Well, I couldn't tell you about hockey because I don't live in Seattle during the off season, but the vibe for the Mariners is outstanding. You've seen it, you've heard it, you read about it. It's very, very good. And being in Seattle this time of year, which we have this maybe second only to San Diego in terms of great weather. A lot of I know so many people who are NBA veterans who are still maybe on the beat and miss coming to Seattle. They always love the basketball vibe. The baseball vibe when the club is going well is outstanding. So it's major market. It's major market. It's
absolutely.
You didn't see. I think you said you grew up in Philadelphia. Do you follow the Phillies at all? Who was your team growing up, and what was your fandom for baseball when you were growing up as a child?
Grew up in Philly. Lived 10 minutes from my first. Until I was 7 or 8 years old, I lived 10-minute walk from the 15-minute walk from the ballpark. So we went all the time. I got to see all the great stars in the National League, late 50s and the 60s, even when we moved a little farther in the northwest part of town. The Phillies are my team, and I also rooted for the Dodgers when I understood their social significance or impact on hiring and signing Jackie Robinson and numbers of black ball players and Latin players that became very important to me. So, and then growing up in that era, how do you not love watching Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale, and that crew? So I would say they were my number two team. And then it seemed, and I always knew, as I can remember as early as I was 4 years old, you always knew the Yankees were going to be in the World Series. And during that time from what was it? They were, because my first recollection of a World Series was 57, and all the way up to that was at 64. They were always in the World Series. It was amazing. So, yeah, and my background in sports, growing up in Philly, you're a hardcore sports fan. I mean, football, baseball, basketball, played it all, watched it all, and loved it all.
Awesome.
Very cool. Frank, do you have anything left for Dave before we let him go?
No, yeah, I just want to say thank you for just doing what you do. You're one of the best announcers in all of baseball, in my opinion. You truly make watching the Mariners better, at least for me, because of how electric you are at your game. So just thank you for coming on and taking the time out of your day to come hang with us for a bit.
I appreciate that, fellas. Thanks a lot. Hey, good luck to you guys moving forward. Hope you have a lot of success with your show.
Thank you, Dave.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right, be well. Take care.
You too. Thanks
for reaching out.
Of course. And that is Dave Sims, play-by-play voice of your Seattle Mariners. Frank, what do you think?
That was awesome because, like I said, when I asked him about the Mitch Haniger base hit call, I've watched that so many times. I've watched it like 3 times this week alone because it's one of my favorite calls of all time from him. And obviously, I actually just saw this the other day that the Mariners actually are the most recent team to pitch a perfect game 10 years ago, I think it was.
Yep.
Felix Hernandez.
King Felix, yep.
I don't remember. I think he was doing the game at that time. Or that game, because remember they also have Aaron Goldsmith, I think his name is. who's another guy just absolutely adore. But just getting to talk to one of the, in my opinion, best broadcasters in MLB, it's just surreal. It's just surreal.
Absolutely. And Frank, I'm so happy that you're this into baseball. Like, I would have never thought this would be the case like 5 years ago. And here we are. I'm like, thank you for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to have you on today. I normally do Crosstown Crosstalk by myself, plus a guest maybe, but having you step in as a co-host today, it was much appreciated.
Absolutely. Anytime.
So you like the Seattle Mariners. I know you follow Major League Baseball as a whole. You know what really annoys me about doing a once a week show? This happens with our hockey show, Bar Down, that you can watch every Wednesday. It also happens with this show, and it happens more often than you think. The biggest possible news drops right after the episode, so we have to wait an entire week to recap it, but it's not something we're not going to talk about. And of course, I'm talking about last Friday, Major League Baseball dropped a bomb on the world as Fernando Tatis Jr. has been suspended for 80 games for performance-enhancing drugs being found in his system. What was your initial reaction to that?
Well, it's definitely a bad look by him and bad look by the Padres organization because, I mean, you got your face of the franchise now who you need come October or just in general to try and contend with the Dodgers, the Mets, just other teams in the NL that are not necessarily in your division, but the other great teams in the National League. And now you do something stupid like this. And not only does it like kind of taint your baseball career, but it taints your what do you call it?
Your legacy?
Yeah, your legacy. Or there's another word I'm thinking of. You're not stereotype. Reputation. There you go. You're kind of tainting your reputation along with your baseball legacy, and it's not a good look. And to think like the White Sox could have had him, and what position they would have been in now, it's definitely not a good look for him.
I think his reputation is really in trouble because think about it, Frank. When the White Sox traded Fernando Tatis Jr. to the Padres, he was the second piece in the trade, right? Like, in the first piece wasn't even all that great. They traded for James Shields. It didn't take that much to land James Shields. Like, imagine if the second guy that the Cubs got in the the third guy the Cubs got in the Bryant trade turned out to be as good as Fernando Tatis Jr. That's like the equivalent of this. Well, how did Fernando Tatis Jr. go from being the White Sox number 28 prospect to a superstar in Major League Baseball? I wonder how that happened. I mean, there are people who are going to believe that. I don't know that to be true. He's obviously a highly skilled player. You don't just take steroids and become elite at baseball, but taking steroids helps you gain muscle and stay healthy. And, how do you think he showed up to spring training with a broken wrist from the motorcycle accident and all he thought was wrist soreness? Because steroids help you feel better. They help you feel less pain even though there's pain. Like, the whole thing is tarnished. His chance at making the Hall of Fame it got cut in half. Like, it's just a really bad look for Fernando Tatis Jr. Honestly, I think it's a worse thing for Tatis than it is for the Padres because at least they have Juan Soto. He's not their best player, right? Like Tatis. You can argue Machado's been better in the last 2 years, and Juan Soto is clearly better than both of them. And even a guy like Josh Bell has been more productive, and at least he's on the field than Fernando Tatis Jr. He's not better overall than him, I don't think, but this year he's more valuable, certainly. So I just think this whole thing is really bad for Fernando, and it's bad for baseball because, man, is he electric factory when he's on the field. He hits the home runs. They became Slam Diego. Like, I just am stunned at what has happened with this guy right now.
And let's not forget about the motorcycle incident either.
Yeah.
And
two, or someone asked him about the motorcycle. He goes, "Which one?"
Yeah, that's a bad look. So when you're the face of a franchise, you can't it's like your whole life changes. You have to do different things throughout your life, even if you don't want to do them. Like, he might have really wanted to ride that motorcycle really bad, but being the face of a franchise, you just can't do these things. I mean, you just suck it up. You're making millions, and these are the sacrifices that you're going to have to make in order to do this. And let's be honest, do the Padres need Tatis? No. Look how many games they've won without him. They're fine. Now, like you said, they got Josh Bell, Juan Soto, Manny Machado's hitting tanks all the time. They don't need Fernando Tatis to be successful. So if anything, it just hurts him more than anything. While it still hurts the Padres organization, I think it still hurts him a lot more.
I agree. Have you heard some of the quotes from players inside the Padres locker room?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so Manny Machado, he kind of had like a big brother kind of thing. We know that they have like a close big brother, little brother type relationship. You might remember last September when the Padres were really taking a poop in the bed. They like got in a big fight in the dugout. Like they argued with each other and they were seen screaming at each other. And Fernando Tatis Jr. went on that show. I'll call him Poppy. It was a show with David Ortiz and Jared Carabas, and they would host a different person.
Mhm.
Like they had Gronk, they had Pedro Martinez. One of the guests was Fernando Tatis Jr., and he talked about his relationship with Manny Machado. So, you know, they're not going to necessarily have a tainted relationship because of this, but it was obvious that Machado was incredibly disappointed. Clevenger goes to the media and says, okay, this guy hasn't been here all year. We don't need him. He basically kind of like poo-pooed on him. The thing that people are going to rip on, Clevenger went out during COVID. He like went to the bars and people were like, oh, well, look at Clevenger talking about leadership. But like everybody's moved past that time. Like he's trying to win a World Series. The Padres are good enough to win the World Series, in my estimation. Don't let the fact that they're in the same division as the Dodgers taint you from thinking that. Does that mean I think they're going to beat the Dodgers? Not necessarily. Does it mean I think they're going to beat the Mets? Not necessarily, but I do believe they can. Absolutely. Blake Snell, Yu Darvish, Musgrove is really good. Clevenger. I mean, they are an awesome, awesome, awesome team, and they can absolutely win the World Series. It would not even slightly shock me. Like, they're right there with the Mariners in terms of, like, teams that I think could win the World Series, and not having Tatis is a big blow. Clevenger's a free agent at the end of the year, so he has no problem saying whatever he feels like he needs to say. But, man, this Tatis Jr. story, it's really turning the Padres. See, here's the thing, though. They could rally around it. They could be like, we got Juan Soto. We got Josh Bell. Okay, our rotation.
They got the pieces.
Yeah, our freaking rotation has Musgrove and Darvish and Snell, Clev. I mean, Clev was amazing in Cleveland. They kind of got rid of him because he was a headache. He seems like less of a headache these days in Slam Diego. You know, your offense is led by Juan Soto, who I mentioned. Manny Machado is like in the MVP race year after year. Fernando Tatis Jr. made a serious mistake for himself, and he's got, 13 years left on his contract at like $380 million left owed? That is tough for the Padres. Now, 3 years from now, he might be a lot more mature. He might have a lot of things figured out. Like, he might not be doing this kind of stuff anymore, but will he be as good? You know?
Yeah, this takes a toll.
Yeah, and he's going to have gone a whole season without playing. And he's going to miss the first 40-something games of next season. So it's going to be like as if he had an injury next season that cost him a month and a half. And by the time he plays next year, what is he going to be like without some of these performance-enhancing drugs? Is he really hurt himself in the court of public opinion by saying he had ringworm and something he was taking to test or to treat that had this PED in it. Nobody buys that, Fernando. You took a substance that is built for muscle recreation. Like if you Google, I forget the name of it. I'm not a doctor.
I saw it, yeah.
But if you Google the name of the drug that was found in him, it's not something that is like for healing or anything like that. It is literally, or it is for like, it's for like muscle growth. Like it has nothing to do with like anything that can help him with ringworm. Do you even know what ringworm is?
I've heard of it. I don't know all the
it's particulars. I'm pretty sure it's like a skin, again, not a doctor, even though I play one on TV and Twitter sometimes, but like I remember the wrestlers in high school used to like have to worry about ringworm. They would put like lotion on them to help them avoid ringworm from the mats. Like, so that's always kind of something that stuck out to me. I just can't believe he didn't come out and say, yeah, I did this for this reason. I wanted to get back healthy from the motorcycle accident. I wanted to recover quicker. I got popped. You know, it never, ever, ever. But here's the thing, though. There's a significant business decision that comes with telling the truth. Subway probably cuts their ties with you. This company cuts their ties with you. If you deny it, then those companies aren't obliged to cut their ties with you. Like, he hasn't lost a single endorsement yet.
Right.
So I don't know. This whole thing's wild
But it
in the
could.
world of baseball.
He could lose endorsements. We've seen it with a lot of different players.
Yes.
So,
I think he would have already had he come clean.
yeah, but is he now a hassle to have on the team? Like, is he going to be a burden at, like, I mean, what else is he going to do? Like, the Padres don't want him to do anything else stupid. It's hurting their name in the long run, too. It's making them look bad. Kind of like when the Astros, with the whole cheating in the World Series and the sign stealing, it made the Astros look bad. I mean, nobody really talks about, like, some of the players on the team. While they did at the time, most people talk about the team as an overall and how they don't like him and how they're not a fan of him. And I'm sure the Padres don't want to have that stigma floating over them.
If you've been watching this White Sox Astros series, Bregman and Altuve still get booed to the nth degree every single time they come to bat. Every single time. I don't watch every Astros game, and when I do, normally they're at home. Like, that means it's normally a big home game for the Astros, unless it's the playoffs. I feel like it happens everywhere they go, though, except for Houston. And you're right. Now, the thing is, Fernando Tatis Jr. didn't do anything like significantly wrong. Like, he's not Trevor Bauer, okay, who's, sexual assault, whatever you want to call what's going on with Deshaun Watson with the massage thing. That's obviously sexual assault too. Like, it's not something that is hurting other people. Everything he's doing is hurting himself. He's not a bad dude. I don't think he's an a-hole. I think he's dumb, if that makes sense.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Like, Deshaun Watson's a bad person, right? Like, he's a shitbag. But Fernando Tatis Jr. is just, the people around him are not helping him reach his I mean, this could have been a Hall of Famer. He was the face of baseball until this year. He was.
What did A-Rod say about him?
A-Rod made a really interesting comment too, and A-Rod's also trying to gain sympathy votes for his own Hall of Fame case. A-Rod's first year of eligibility for the Hall of Fame was this past vote, and he said, "I'm probably never going to go to the Hall of Fame," and it's for the same reasons. Now, A-Rod tested. He was proven to have done multiple things, and he was suspended for a whole season. His reputation is significantly more tarnished than Fernando Tatis's ever will be. It was also like the beginning or the middle of the steroid era where things were like at its peak, where we kind of went through a lull of steroid using in baseball, and now Tatis is kind of like revamping it a little bit. But I mean, do you agree with A-Rod? I do think A-Rod is trying to gain sympathy votes. Like, got 34% on his first ballot. He could easily climb up. Like, feel sorry for me. It was an accident. I didn't mean to, or maybe I did mean to, but it was necessary for the time. What's your take on that?
Well, what did he say about the whole Tatis thing? Or did he just basically use the Tatis thing as a way to say, like, how he'll never be in the Hall of Fame?
He said that Tatis might not make it to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, stuff like this is taken very seriously in the MLB and across all sports. So I'd have to say I agree with A-Rod. I mean, let's be honest. If Tatis goes 13 years without another hiccup, he'll probably be considered, because, I mean, this is like his first drug-related offense. I don't know if they wouldn't take in consideration the motorcycle accident.
No.
For the Hall of Fame. So with this like little hiccup, and maybe down the line, if he has a very successful career, if he could pull himself back from this, I mean, only time will tell. It's the stuff he does 10 years from now, being more mature potentially. I mean, that could all make a difference, and they might brush this under the rug. But one thing's for sure, the MLB could forgive him, but they're not going to forget what happened.
Absolutely. And whenever Tatis Jr. comes to bat, he's going to get booed. There's no doubt he's going to get booed. For some reason, the court of public opinion hates PED users. If it were up to me, everyone would do it, and then they'd all hit 50 home runs a season. It would be awesome. Mm-hmm. I'm totally joking. I mean, I'm half joking. I don't really know where I stand on that. I think, there are some drugs that probably could become legal, and I wouldn't be mad about it. Like, why wouldn't I want guys to do what they can to heal up, as long as it's not affecting their long-term health? I don't necessarily hate it. But there are some drugs that are just illegal, and guys get popped, and He's going to miss 80 games. He's already, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's like 10 games into it. No, not 10. It was last Friday that this came out, and it was effective immediately because I think he was just about to come back. And
Yeah,
then
he was.
boom. Now, the problem is, I'm pretty sure they've known about this for a long time, but you can't get popped while you're on the 60-day. You can't
really?
get tested while you're on the 60-day. I believe. I'm not positive that that's the case, but if that is the case, that's just weird. And like right before he comes back, they pop him.
Well, what happened probably was he was getting ready to return, and probably in order to return, you have to go through testing, and that's when they got him. They're not going to test him 60 days early.
Yeah, no. And I don't know if the 60-day was retroactive. He went to spring training. He was at spring training with the Padres, and he thought he could play. And they were like, dude, your wrist. Like, what do you mean you think you can play? He's like, oh, it's just a little sore. Now we know why he thought it was just a little sore. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because drugs are crazy, man. They're crazy, bro. They help you feel some type of way, man. They help your wrist feel like it's not shattered. And you could swing a baseball bat and be fine. It's like, why do people hate Barry Bonds so much? Barry Bonds is the greatest hitter who ever lived. He could have hit 700 home runs without doing steroids, but could he have hit 756? Could he have played into his 40s? Like that. That's why if Albert did steroids, I think he might have early in his career. There's no doubt it's possible. I mean, vehemently denying anybody from the mid 2000s on doing steroids just makes you look naive. Like, but now he would have passed 700 by now. The muscle mass and the aging better. He would have an extra 11 home runs in his career. There's just no doubt in my mind. And he would not be a bad player in the year 2022. He just wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I stand on the whole thing. It's an interesting story. It's going to be one to follow for a long time.
Oh yeah, because this is going to carry over till next year. So
yeah, what are your thoughts?
Wait, hold on before you switch, because what would happen if so obviously playoffs don't count towards it?
No.
Suspension?
No.
Oh, okay. So that won't include. So okay.
If the Padres win the World Series and every series goes to Game 7, he won't be back earlier next season than estimated.
So, but what if like this would have happened during the playoffs?
Yeah, that's
a play.
I'm gonna guess no.
But then it should count against your games.
I think you would be suspended for X amount of playoff games plus regular season.
Oh, okay.
Like think about the way they do in the NHL.
Yeah.
Like he's been suspended for 5 regular season games and 1 playoff game.
Yeah.
Like I can hear freaking Brendan Shanahan or whoever the hell's in charge of it right now. Brendan Shanahan's long not doing it anymore, but we're going to transition. I want to get your thoughts on your second favorite team, the Chicago Cubs. What's going on there?
You think they're number 2, huh?
You act like it.
Well, I mean, just right now, they haven't been doing anything. They're 49 and 67.
I don't actually think that. It's just a joke. But I understand it's more vibrant to tweet about the Mariners right now. That's just a fact.
Yeah, if the Cubs were like the Mariners right now, I'd be tweeting about the Cubs.
100%. Listen, dude, go back and look at my Twitter timeline in 2018 and see how much I was just enjoying myself some Boston Red Sox baseball.
Yeah, I mean, but they've been better lately. I've liked what I've seen from them. Obviously, as the year progresses, they're not going to make the October baseball. And as we go into next year, Ricketts has actually been very vocal about being very active in free agency. And ultimately, that's what's going to turn this team around, right? They didn't trade Contreras. They didn't trade Happ. Things that everybody expected was going to happen, including them. They had the hug in the dugout. They had that moment, and they stay. So you know what that tells me? That tells me Ricketts isn't ready to continue this rebuild. They're saying with Contreras and Happ being an all-star, Wilson being one of the best catchers in baseball, they're saying we could build around these guys with some of the guys we have and being a little more active in free agency. I mean, look you got Suzuki as well. Seiya Suzuki's just been outstanding. Do they need more pieces on offense? Absolutely. They had one of the greatest bullpens this year. They were like a top 5 bullpen this year, and then started getting rid of the guys. So I think they need to improve their pitching a little bit. But I've liked what I've seen from Steele. I've liked what I've seen from Stroman, and I like what I've seen from Thompson. Do they have the greatest win-loss? No. We've talked about how that doesn't matter as much because the Cubs can't just always score when they're pitching. I mean, there's nothing that they could do about it, but their ERAs are fairly well. Their whips are not too bad, and I don't hate what I've been seeing from them in terms of that. So I think that in order to be successful, you're going to have to build this next great Cubs team against a few of the guys you have right now, like Suzuki, Happ, Contreras. And that's basically what Ricketts has been saying, is that he wants to build the next great Cubs team around free agent signings, mainly being starting next year too, and being super active in the next year. And not to forget that Hayward, despite having 1 year left on his contract, he's not coming back next year. So, I mean, these are things that all the Cubs have to consider, and hopefully they get a little more offensive power in the offseason, and we'll take it from there and see where we go.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I would have traded Contreras and Happ because I think the assets they could have got for them could have been astronomical, and I don't think that would impede them from being a good team next year. I just don't. An aging catcher who's probably on the decline a little bit, even though he's still very good, all-star worthy, one of the best catchers in the league. You don't normally get better once you turn 30, but Ian Happ, you keep them both, right? And you didn't even mention the guy who's probably having the best season of any Cubs player.
Wisdom?
That's Nico Horner.
Oh.
And I'm out on Wisdom. I don't think Wisdom is very good at hitting home runs, and that's about it. If he doesn't hit a home run, he's like a wasted at bat almost every time. But Nico Horner is low-key one of the best shortstops in the National League now. Okay, so everybody's saying the Cubs are going to go for this big free agent shortstop. Why? They have Nico Horner. Go get Trey Turner. Trey Turner is going to be the starting second baseman and leadoff man for the Chicago Cubs next season. Wow. That is my prediction. I wholeheartedly believe that. And if you're running out there, Seiya Suzuki, Trey Turner, Nico Horner, Wilson Contreras, Ian Happ, let frickin' Patrick Wisdom bat sixth and hope he runs into one when guys are on base. Nick Madrigal. He can be whatever you need him to be. He could be a backup. You could trade him for something, for help, pitching help, right? Cody Hoyer is going to be back, and I think he has a legit chance. Cody Hoyer has a chance to be like a sick closer. He was the White Sox setup man for Liam Hendricks before they traded him for Kimbrel. They should have just kept frickin' Hoyer to be their setup man instead of Kimbrel, because Hoyer has proven he can do that, but he can legit be a closer. At worst, he could be a setup man, like a very good one. He could lead the league in holds. I truly believe that. And next year, Kyle Hendricks, I would have traded him last year. I don't know if you get anything for him anymore. Yeah, like, I understand World Series champion, I think he won an ERA title, contention for the Cy Young a couple times. He's dangerously close to becoming Dallas Keuchel, because whenever those soft tossing guys who throw a max of like 92, they rely on location. Once your location starts to falter a little bit, you become batting practice to major league hitters, and that's what happened to Dallas Keuchel. I fear it happening to Kyle Hendricks. The Cubs probably should have traded him last year. They couldn't this year because he was hurt. We'll see what happens with him. Hopefully he has at least one more year of playing okay enough to maybe get something. But there's a couple other things, Cubs fans. Peter Crow Armstrong, the prospect they got for Javier Baez from the New York Mets, it was a 1-for-1 deal pretty much. Mm-hmm. Dude, he's amazing. Brendan Davis is out for the rest of the season with an injury, but he's amazing. He's like a top 10 MLB prospect. I really like Braylon Marquez, their top pitching prospect. Killian, is it Caleb Killian?
Killian.
He was the prospect in return, the top prospect in return for Chris Bryant. He made his MLB debut this season. He might be a call-up in September and let these guys get some work in the MLB and continue their development. The Cubs are not in as bad of a spot as some people think, but I think they have to either commit to being good next year with these guys, or they got to like fully go through a rebuild instead of a retread.
I think they're going to try to retool because they didn't make those trades. Yeah. They didn't trade Contreras and Happ. That was like super telling.
And to me, like, why, like, they must have just not thought Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez were worth it at that point. And lo and behold, kind of right. Like, Rizzo hit a big home run. Was it yesterday or 2 nights ago? But like, they don't need an aging first baseman that has back problems. Chris Bryant's always hurt lately. He missed a lot of this season with the Colorado Rockies. He's been okay when he's there. Javi's had some magnificent individual efforts this season with Detroit, but his overall numbers stink.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just got to wonder what's going on there. People like Morel in center field.
I like Morel a lot.
And a lot of the Cubs' young talent is not in the MLB yet, but they have a lot of veterans that like could really help get this team back into, I don't know about contention. Listen, I'm not saying all these guys are going to lead the Cubs to the World Series, but can they win a National League Central Division title? The Cardinals, they're one Paul Goldschmidt or Nolan Arenado injury from being just an okay team, and the Brew Crew has fallen way off.
Yeah.
They might not even make the playoffs this year. Which is stunning to me. They traded Hader, right? The Pirates, what a disgraceful MLB team they've become this year. They actually had like a good start even through the All-Star break. Mm-hmm. And they just shipped everyone away, and their roster is just a bunch of like not even quadruple A players, like players who just shouldn't even be playing in the MLB at all. And the Reds, they're completely blowing it up.
And the Reds have a lot of talent too. Kyle Farmer, Joey Votto. I mean, they're all good players.
Yeah, and Joey Votto's older. He's loyal to a fault. You almost would like to see him go get traded to a contender, you know, and so the Reds can like maybe get something for him. He's not the player he once was. There was a point where Joey Votto was a top 5 hitter in the MLB, and not much playoff success. But, you know, speaking of Joey Votto and the Cincinnati Reds, did you enjoy the Field of Dreams game?
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It was fun to watch because, I mean, not a lot of people had expectations for two terrible teams, but I think it lived up to the hype given the teams that were in it, the Cubs and the Reds. It was very interesting, very fun to watch being a Cubs fan and seeing that moment. You had your moment last year with the White Sox and the Yankees, and at the end of the day, the Chicago teams are undefeated in Field of Dreams games.
That's the way it should be. Chicago owns corn, so I'm glad you enjoyed it. It had bad ratings. It didn't like the rate. Like last year's Field of Dreams game was the highest viewed regular season baseball game since 2005. The ratings last Thursday plummeted. I don't know if it's because the two teams are like below average, or if it's people were mad that the two teams really had nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah, I think that plays a big thing into it too, because think about it. MLB's doing the first ever Field of Dream game with the White Sox and the Yankees. I mean, that's like huge marketing. Everybody wants to tune in for that, right? Nobody's going to want to miss it. You got two teams from the movie. So it's like, I think that plays into it as well, as like why it was so viewed. And then you have two teams that really aren't affiliated with the movie, but you want to continue this Field of Dreams trend with two bad teams. I think that's what hurt it too, but it was interesting for me.
Yeah, the only thing the Cubs and the Reds have in common with the Field of Dreams movie is that the Cubs are also from Chicago, and the Reds are the team that beat the White Sox in the 1918 World Series when they were the Black Sox, and they threw the World Series on purpose. They lost to the Reds. So the only...
I also think that the MLB wanted to choose two old franchises.
Yeah, the Reds are the oldest franchise, I believe.
And the Cubs are very old. And they wanted to get two old-style franchises so you could have these throwbacks. You're not going to choose a team that came into you're not going to choose a team like the Mariners.
Yeah.
A newer franchise and to play in this type of game because of how, like, legendary Field of Dreams is. So I think that was also played into their decision on why they wanted to choose the Cubs and the Reds.
Absolutely. If they keep picking old teams, I would like to see the A's play the Braves.
I could see the Red Sox too.
Yes, the Red Sox too. Braves Red Sox would be cool because you could wear the two Boston. They're both originated in Boston. Mm-hmm. One stayed, one moved. But yeah, the Field of Dreams game. The Cubs won. It was a big game for Nick Madrigal, who we mentioned earlier. He had 3 hits, looked outstanding, and the Cubs took care of business against the Cincinnati Reds. They will be off next year. They're building hotels and more seating around it, and then they will
the Field
circle
of
back.
Dreams?
Yeah, and they
Oh,
will
okay.
circle back in 2024, and we'll see who's involved. Part of me believes the White Sox will be back involved in that game.
I have a theory.
Lay it on me.
I think it's going to be the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Interesting. Everybody would tune in for that.
So we'll see. I don't know. It just feels like they're going to have a repeat in there, whether it be the White Sox or the Yankees. But I don't know. If it's the White Sox, who do they play?
I mean, it could be a plethora of teams. It could be the Mets.
Can you imagine White Sox Cubs?
White Sox Cubs is certainly a possibility. Yeah,
I'd
I don't
almost
know.
have to go to the game.
Huh?
I'd almost have to go to that game.
Yeah, and
even though it's so damn expensive.
It should be easier and cheaper though next time if there's more seats. That's the only thing that's possible. So speaking of the White Sox, they're in a very tight American League Central Division race. They've took 2 of 3 from the Astros so far. They will be getting ready to face the Cleveland Guardians this weekend and could be in first place by the end of it. What's your take on this 3-team race and where the White Sox stand in it?
Well, you're trailing the Twins, who I think are frauds. I'm not a fan of the Twins. Great offensive lineup, but they're not going to be here come October. Let's be honest. The Guardians, I think, right now are the White Sox biggest problem. They had a clutch win last night. They were down 4-1 to the Tigers and end up winning the game 8-4. I mean, that's just a huge blow to the White Sox. I mean, now we're getting down to key games where every loss that the Guardians take is super helpful for the White Sox. I mean, they've definitely been better lately. We've seen a lot more consistency from Liam Hendricks. I think he has 18 straight games or 18 straight saves, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
So that's good to see from Liam Hendricks. Just it all comes down to consistency and the bullpen, and we know how good Cease could be, right? We know how good Cueto could be. I'm pretty sure Cueto is the only White Sox pitcher that has pitched up into the 8th inning, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, I don't know if that's because they don't trust the White Sox bullpen that much, but if the White Sox bullpen could stay consistent and back up what the pitching has been, because the pitching's been very well, I think that they're going to make the playoffs.
I agree with you. Their bullpen has the 10th highest WAR of any bullpen in Major League Baseball. So it hasn't been a problem. I think the reason the starters haven't gone very deep is because everybody besides Cueto is considered a strikeout artist. In order to be a strikeout artist, you throw a lot of pitches. And so those guys are always out after the 6th inning. Dylan Cease is, as magnificent as he's been this season, he never makes it to the 7th inning, really. Kopech has done it a couple times. But when Kopech throws lots of strikeouts, the pitches climb because you need at least 3 pitches in the at-bat in order to get the strikeout. And, of course, you need to work in a couple off-speed pitches out of the zone in order to. So strikeout pitchers don't always really fare well. Like when you look at the players who have complete game shutouts in their career, a lot of them are the Kyle Hendricks types, the Dallas Keuchel types, the Johnny Cueto, the current Johnny Cueto types. Johnny Cueto used to be a strikeout guy. He kind of adjusted his style a little bit as his velocity came down with age. But yeah, Kopech, Cueto, Cease, Giolito, and Lynn are a good rotation, in my opinion. They're a playoff-worthy rotation. They could be a World Series rotation. Tony needs to be good at using the bullpen to his strength, and the lineup needs to start scoring some more runs. I didn't get mad at losing 3-2 to the Houston Astros on Wednesday night. Like, you're not going to sweep the Astros.
No.
Like, the fact that they took the first 2 in the fashion that they did, like, that's cool.
That Verlander win for the White Sox, that was huge. So.
Exactly. And so we'll see what happens this weekend with the Guardians. They're off on Thursday, I believe. But, the White Sox, they could be in first place by our next show. And they have the best record in the American League in the last 32 games. And they have the 3rd best record in the American League since the All-Star break. And they were 6.5 games out of first place on July 5th. So think about the day after 4th of July, where you were. I believe for us, it was a day we were playing some mini golf the day after 4th of July. was it Putt Shack?
No, I thought it wasn't that.
Don't forget, I get the two confused.
Oh no, it wasn't parking. I don't think that was the day.
I get the two confused. Don't
I
forget.
don't remember. Now you're confusing me.
Well, it was the outdoor one.
Oh, parking.
And we went to McDonald's after, and then that was July 5th. On that day, the White Sox were 6.5 games out of first place, and here we are. Since then, they've been one of the best teams in the league again, and that just goes to show how bad they were in the first half. That they've been one of the best teams in the league since then, and now frickin' they're still not in first place, but they're right there with the wild card. They're right there with the Twins and the Guardians at the top of the division. So I believe in them, and I hope they're able to get it done. This Astros series was very revealing that they can do it. Eloy Jimenez has been on fire. Abreu's been great. They're missing TA for a while, but Yohan Moncada's been clutch. So it's been good time in White Sox land.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely been a lot better to watch. Obviously, you've seen how hard it is to make up ground, even only being 6 games back over a month, and they're still making up ground. That's why it's so crucial. Well, you know what bothers me is like when a team comes out swinging in the beginning of the season, or like it's just the beginning of the season. These games really don't matter that much. Well, it does. If you could get out to that start, and you don't have to make up ground later on, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and like a good example of that is the White Sox last year. The White Sox in 2021 were the best team in baseball through maybe like July 30th. And it just kind of from there, like they were kind of like 500 middling the rest of the way. And it's like, well, they built this huge lead, so they were able to do that late in the season. It cost them because they weren't going into the playoffs very hot. But like that huge lead when the games weren't that important really helped the White Sox get to 93 wins and be one of the best teams in the American League. So yeah, ignore people who talk about that early in baseball seasons. They don't know what they're talking about. They're casuals.
And here's another good example too. Astros come swinging the first part of the season. They're electric. I mean, they're still doing amazing. And the Mariners right now are they're not now, but they were okay to start. I was getting nervous at the beginning of the season. They lost a lot of ground. They go on to win 14 games in a row. They're 11 games back still to the Astros. That's how crucial early on in the season is. If the Mariners were even 5 to 10 games better early on in the season, they'd be contending for the division title. But because they got off to that slow start, you win 14 in a row now. Well, now it's a little bit too late because it's very hard to make up ground in the MLB.
Absolutely. So, Frank, that's the Cubs and the White Sox, the two Chicago teams here on Crosstown Crosstalk. There are a couple other MLB stories I wanted to quickly touch on before we head out of here. The Yankees suck. Big walk-off grand slam by Josh Donaldson yesterday. Did you see the video of Stephen A. Smith ranting about the Yankees?
Yeah, I did. Uh-huh.
He's a fraud baseball fan. The last person that you can go after if you want to shit on the way the New York Yankees have played since the All-Star break is Aaron Judge. That is because he's 1 for his last 14 going into yesterday. Have you ever heard of a 3-game slump or a 4-game slump? I mean, that's what a 1 for 14 is, like a little 4-game slump. Like he had a bad series. Okay, Ohtani has had a stretch this year where he went 1 for 14. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Like every player, it happens to everyone. It happens. Every pitcher gets shelled at least once. It kind of pisses me off that the only time Johnny Cueto got shelled was against the super elite Chicago Cubs offense. I'm trying to Dylan Cease got shelled at a game he got 10 strikeouts. That's why there's like a little asterisk. There's a little asterisk next to the Cease got shelled game because he still had 10 strikeouts. Which I'd rather no strikeouts than a win, but that's just me. What's your take on the New York Yankees? Because you kind of got roasted by Dave Sims for talking.
Oh, I was going to mention that. Yeah, he told me to pump the brakes. Well, to be honest with you, it's not going to change my opinion on them. I'm not afraid of the Yankees. Even Dave said like, oh, don't put bullet points on teams or whatnot. But no, it's true. I'm more scared of the Astros. I'm more scared of who's a team in the NL? The Mets.
The Mets are very good.
I mean, I think the Mets right now are better than the Yankees. I think they're the better of the two New York teams.
I do
right
too.
now.
And the Braves are right there with the Mets. They
And
are.
The Yankees have lost 5 straight series. The last time they did that, dating back to 2005. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. That's why I was kind of shocked. Like, I don't know if Dave just didn't want to say something because, he doesn't want – he's got a reputation to keep up. But, I mean, no, come on. The Yankees, I'm not afraid of the Yankees. Give me the Yankees in October, and I'll show you what the Mariners could do. I mean, you saw that game where Castillo was pitching where it was 0-0 in the 13th inning. That was a playoff game. And ultimately, Mariners had better mindset, and their pitching was just better in key situations. Yankees had bad base running, but I mean, you have to look at the team as an overall whole. So if that's how they're going to play come October, give me the Yankees. I'm not afraid of them. The only team that I'm a little afraid of is the Astros because it seems like every time the Mariners go to play the Astros, they have problems. But the Yankees, no. Am I afraid of Judge? Yeah, 46 home runs, and that's a man to be afraid of. I don't care if he won for 30. He's going to get out of it. Even the best players in history for any sport, Wayne Gretzky has gone through slumps. I mean, it's just he was stupid when he said that. But as far as like he mentioned that's being dangerous in the better team, that's something I agree with him right now.
Absolutely. The Yankees, we'll see what they're able to do in the postseason. I wanted to touch on Shohei Ohtani quickly, too. Yesterday, he hit a 2-run home run, went 4 for 5 with a home run, a triple, and 4 RBIs. And the Angels were losing 8-7 or 11-7 at that point. How much of a disgrace is it that Ohtani's able to do stuff like that, help the Angels get that many runs on the board, and they still get killed by the Mariners?
Yeah, and let's not forget he's 8 for 13 in the series with a 1.154 slugging and pitching. He's pitched 6 innings, 2 ERA with 8 strikeouts, and they got swept in that series. It's like Ohtani could do whatever he can, and it's still not enough. I kind of feel bad for him because it's kind of like what Trout has gone through. Trout's never won a playoff game, right? Didn't they get swept
Yeah.
first time they – yeah. Yep. So, I mean, it's like you have 2 of the best players in the league on your team, and, like, you're going nowhere. It's like, what do the Angels have to do to get out of this slump?
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. We have a couple things of breaking news going on literally at the same time. My mind is in overdrive right now. The Chicago White Sox did sign just now Elvis Andrus, as first reported by me on Twitter yesterday. I literally had that last night that the White Sox were in on him. And there were a couple people telling me, where do you get your blue check mark from? You have no sources. Fuck you. All of you. I have sources. Kiss my whole ass. Elvis Andrus is coming to the Chicago White Sox. When VP tweets something, he means it. Assholes.
Yeah.
And we have huge hockey news that's going to blow your brain off. Nazem Kadri did not sign with the New York Islanders.
Did he go back to Colorado?
He went to the Calgary Flames.
That was something I mentioned.
In order to make room for Nazem Kadri's contract, the Calgary Flames have traded Sean Monahan to the Montreal Canadiens.
Wow.
Montreal making big moves too. Sean Monahan's a decent player, but Calgary, they replaced Goudreau and Kachuk with Kadri and freaking Huberdeau.
I have notes from a prior show that I mentioned that there's a chance that he goes to Calgary, and I forgot the reasoning. I have it somewhere. I can't find it right now, but I remember saying something about there's a chance he could fit in because they needed to make up a little ground.
They replaced they about replaced the number of points they lost with Kachuk and Goudreau,
exactly.
I would say, or at least the points per game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, good on Calgary. I know this is our baseball show, but we talk every sport on every show, and that's outstanding. I'm very happy about that. So, yeah, it is what it is. Calgary, the Battle of Alberta lives on, baby. The Battle of Alberta lives on. More Kadri versus Kane. Evander Kane.
Mm-hmm.
That oh my God. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Battle of Alberta. Let's go. Ready for that? Make sure you tune into Bar Down Talking Hockey every Wednesday. Frank, thanks for coming on this show. That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. There's something else I want to say. On August 23rd, Pat Foley will be announcing the Cubs game, which
Yep.
that is something I forgot to mention that when we were talking about the Cubs. That'll be super exciting.
He will do innings 1 through 3 on 670 The Score, and then innings 4 through 6 on the Marquee Network. So make sure
That'll
you
be a
tune in on
lot
the
of
radio, on the television. Cubs baseball next Tuesday. Who are they playing?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't know who they're playing either. I remember. Do you remember when Doc called a Cubs Pirates game?
Yeah, vaguely.
Doc is a big Pirates fan, and it was a Cubs Pirates game, and he called it with Bob Costas. It was Bob Costas and Doc Emmerich calling that game
I think.
on MLB Network. That was a lot of fun for me because Doc Emmerich is my all-time favorite announcer in any sport, and to hear him call baseball was just so cool for me because
how do you think about Pat Foley for me? Like, I'm excited for it.
I love Pat Foley too. He's probably on my Mount Rushmore of favorite hockey announcers. I don't know if he's quite on my Mount Rushmore of favorite all-time announcers. I would have to think about that. But hockey announcers, certainly. Absolutely. He's probably number 2 behind Doc. I really liked we got robbed. We got so robbed. I loved Dave Strader.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. I loved
He was all right.
Like, go back and watch the highlights from Blackhawks versus Kings Game 7. And the goal Patrick Kane scored, the heartbreaker on the feed from Taves. And Brian Bickle picked Kopitar in the corner, and Dave Strader had a sick call for that. The Leafs-Bruins game where the Bruins were losing 4-1, and they came all the way back and beat the Leafs in overtime. Patrice Bergeron tied it late and won it in overtime. Like, that was Dave Strader. Oh, yeah, we were a big Dave Strader house back in the day. Joey and I both sat there and cried at the kitchen table together when he passed away. Like, that was tough. Yeah, we loved Dave Strader. So, good announcer talk. Frank, Dave Sims, I hope you enjoyed having him on and getting to chat with him for a little bit. The Mariners are off today, so we'll see what they're able to do this weekend. Make sure you're following Frankie Mueller on social media at the King Bean on Twitter. You can find him and all the links to his Twitch and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully when the winter rolls around, the King Bean starts streaming again because that was something that really helped me get through my work late at night. So hopefully you're able to get back to doing that soon. I know summer's winding down. We got hockey coming up. We got playoff baseball. Hopefully that features both the Mariners and the White Sox. And you could also follow me at Vinnie Parise. As always, thank you for listening.